France's newest star ballerina, a colorful exhibition in Provence, and the return of a cult comics anthology. That's all coming up in today's show. But we begin in the Loire Valley, where the Château de Chambord was originally built as a hunting residence for King Francis I. But this week, the UNESCO World Heritage site got a more modern use as one of the world's most majestic concert venues. British rocker Sting performed hit after hit before a crowd of some 20,000 people, with the castle's French Renaissance towers as his backdrop. Sting also spoke to journalists about his 1980s song Russians, which he's been reviving in tribute to Ukraine.
You know, I wrote Russians in the 80s, at the height of the Cold War, never imagining that 40 years later, that it would still be relevant, that we still have the situation where we are against Russia. And that makes me very sad. I love Russian people. I spend a lot of time in the country. I'm appalled by what Monsieur Putin has done. And, you know, my song is now a gesture of solidarity with the people of Ukraine. So I don't think it will solve the problem, but that's my gesture.
Here in the French capital, the Paris Opera Ballet has a new lead dancer named François Allou. He was elevated to étoile, or star dancer, this past April, and he's also well known outside of the world of classical dance. Allou was a judge on the French version of Dancing with the Stars, and he starred in his own one-man show that blends dance with comedy. Nick Rushworth tells us more about him.
J'ai le grand plaisir de nommer Monsieur François Allou.
He began dancing when he was 6 years old. Now, at 28, François Allou is the star dancer at the Paris Opera Ballet. It is an extraordinary achievement.
That moment felt like it was suspended in time. My family was there, my friends, my team, my partner, everyone. This for sure is a moment for celebration. It's somewhat exceptional. I see it as a crowning moment, not just for the dancing itself, but almost for my whole life journey.
Allou has more of an athletic build than other Paris opera dancers. He performs superb pirouettes and turns in the air. Here's his response when asked if he dreamed of becoming a star dancer one day.
I don't really think about that. What I like the most is performing like this, meeting people, other performers, choreographers.
This is where it all started. His mum is a dance instructor, and with her help he got into the Paris Opera Ballet School at age 10, practicing in this dance studio in the basement of the family home.
Not much has changed since then. We're still gliding, bending, rising on the toes, doing all the ballet movements.
François' brother Thibaut also dances. They share a love of hip-hop.
It gives him an extra dimension. In classical dancing, there are more rules. The shoulders are lower, you're upright. Hip-hop has different sources of inspiration. It's a different culture. He can be more open-minded.
François was inspired in his career by a former opera ballet star dancer and artistic director, Patrick Dupont.
I'm glad he watched Patrick Dupont. He saw videos. He sat down and didn't move and said, "That's what I want to do."
François Allou is a high achiever. Aside the Paris Opera Ballet, he has his own one-man show and is also part of the jury of Dance with the Stars, France's version of the British show, Strictly Come Dancing.
Next, one of the exhibitions to look out for in France this summer, Raoul Dufy, The Intoxication of Color, retraces the artist's career and highlights his close links with Provence through more than 90 of his paintings. Florence Gaillard went to the southern city of Aix-en-Provence to check it out.
His signature is his dazzling color palette. Influenced by the broad brushstrokes and the vivid colors of avant-gardist painters of the time, Matisse, Monet, and later Cézanne, Raoul Dufy began to develop his personal style after a trip to the south of France in 1908.
At the beginning of his career, Raoul Dufy explored the geometry of forms, as Cézanne did. Here, he superimposed the boats without adding any perspective or depth. It's just curves and countercurves, a game of arabesque, like this rounded shape here. It's in the movement.
Dufy experimented with different mediums: pencil, watercolors, oils and ceramics, and even wood stencils. The Frenchman came to textile design with the guidance of fashion designer Paul Poiret. Together, they founded a fabric company, experiences that would feed into his paintings in an explosion of colors, like this one illustrating the beaches of Normandy, his homeland.
It's really a painting that characterizes his period of maturity in 1925. Here we have these flat areas of color with small human figures drawn with simple lines, disassociating the color from the lines. Then if you look at these flags, there's his festive side. He's really a painter of happiness, pleasure, and freedom in his compositions and his lines.
In 1937, he was invited to the Universal Exhibition in Paris, which would inspire him to produce the masterpiece The Electric Fairy, a 600-meter-squared fresco in tribute to technological progress. And recreated here in Aix-en-Provence as a panorama experience, a room in which the public is immersed in the largest painting in the world.
Here in France, a cult comics anthology from the 1970s has just been resurrected after a 13-year absence. Métal Hurlant, or Howling Metal, brings together comics and science fiction. France 24's Renaud Lefort flipped through the latest issue, called Holiday on Mars, and spoke to one of its founders.
The trapdoor leads to an Alibaba's cave of all the back issues of the French comic strip Métal Hurlant, Howling Metal. The sci-fi and horror comic strip book was founded by Jean-Pierre Dionnet and 3 associates, and at various times has been adapted in 20 countries, including in the US under the title Heavy Metal.
Jean-Pierre Dionnet and the other founders created a monster without realizing it, just in terms of the creative input and what the readers loved and hated about it.
Hurling Metal is back on sale in France. Dionnet, now 74, isn't working directly on the new issues, but is consulted. He has plenty of anecdotes about his years in charge, including one about George Miller, the director of the Mad Max series of films.
Mad Max was the biggest mistake of my life. One day this guy came along dressed like Crocodile Dundee, with a bush hat and everything. He tells me he's going to make a movie, and that he wants to call it Howling Metal, after the comic. I didn't even take his number. And that's how I met the director of the first Mad Max movie. A different title, but they did keep the lightning strike. Later, when I went on the Mad Max set on Miller's invitation, I didn't even dare mention our meeting, but I did think how stupid I'd been.
Miller remained inspired by Howling Metal. This image in the last of the Mad Max series has a striking resemblance to this cover of Howling Metal. For the latest edition, the cartoonist Virginie Augustin took on the theme Holiday on Mars and was inspired.
Because of my upbringing and age, the first thing that comes to mind about Mars is the War of the Worlds, basically something very warlike. I wanted to imagine being on holiday on Mars, taking a walk on the planet. I thought that when humans finally get there, well, maybe they won't be the first ones to visit.
The Howling metal comic strip was launched in 1974 and was hugely influential worldwide. Publication stopped in 1987 and was resurrected a couple of times in the early 2000s. The team is hoping this relaunch will be third time lucky.
And we end with the latest French music festival making its post-pandemic comeback. After 2 years of cancellation, the Eurockéennes takes place this weekend in the eastern city of Belfort. It will feature many new faces. About 3/4 of the performers have never played at the festival before. Headliners include Belgian artist Stromae, Australian singer-songwriter Nick Cave, and British rockers Muse. Our music critic, Marjorie Ashe, will be there. She'll bring you all of the news in a special show this Monday. For a taste of the festival's lineup, we can leave you with a clip of Stromae singing L'Enfer from his latest album Multitude. Thanks for watching. There's more news coming up after this.
Du coup, j'ai parfois eu des pensées suicidaires et j'en suis peu fier. On croit parfois que c'est la seule manière de les faire taire. Ces pensées qui me font vivre un enfer. Ces pensées qui me font vivre un enfer.